Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into something truly extraordinary. It's a text often whispered about, in hushed tones, sometimes even considered, oh, well, unlucky to read outside of specific ceremonies. We're talking about the Garuda Purâṇa, a sacred Hindu text. It's basically this profound dialogue between the deity Vishnu and Garuda, the mythical king of birds.
That's right.
And it really unflinchingly explores the landscape of death, these elaborate funeral rites, and the whole metaphysics of reincarnation. What immediately strikes you, and what we'll definitely explore, is how its vivid descriptions of the afterlife, particularly its portrayals of, hell and Yama's city, they have some truly surprising parallels with Western concepts.
Oh, absolutely.
You might find yourself thinking of, say, Dante's Inferno, or maybe even the heavenly city in the Book of Revelation.
Yeah, it's led to some theories, hasn't it, about possible medieval era contact with early Christianity.
Exactly. But here's a really crucial distinction, I think, that sets it apart. The destinations described in the Garuda Purana, they're generally intermediate way stations. They aren't permanent, you see.
Right, that's key. It's more about purification and progress, not eternal damnation or everlasting bliss in the same way. And that's precisely what's so fascinating here, isn't it? This isn't just some grim roadmap for the deceased. It's actually a pretty comprehensive guide for the living, too. So our mission, really, for this deep dive is to try and extract the most important insights from this really rich, complex source material. We'll navigate the intricate journey of the soul after death, from the, well, sometimes agonizing details of the afterlife to the elaborate funeral ceremonies outlined, and ultimately uncover its profound appeal to self-knowledge as the definitive path to liberation. A path that, maybe surprisingly, goes far beyond just rituals or, studying texts alone.
Okay, so to really grasp the Purana's view of the afterlife, where does it begin? Right after death, especially for those considered, well, sinful.
Yeah.
The text really doesn't pull any punches, does it?
Not at all.
It describes the moment the life breath leaves the body as experiencing pain, like the stinging of 100 scorpions. Ouch.
Yeah, pretty intense imagery.
Then these two terrifying messengers of Yama arrive. The Purana paints them as black as crows, with hair erect, with ugly faces, with nails like weapons.
Very menacing.
And their purpose is chilling, to drag the man of the size of a thumb, which is the subtle body of the soul, right?
And that's the idea, yes. The subtle body.
To drag it from its physical shell, it's a pretty stark and immediate consequence.
It truly is. And once dragged out, the soul embarks on what's called the Way of Yama.
Okay.
This is an incredibly arduous journey. It spans 86,000 yanasas.
Which is, how far is that, roughly?
Well, for context, it's roughly 688,000 to 774,000 miles.
Wow, that's immense.
Think about that distance. And it's described as shelterless and waterless over burning sand, plagued by forest fires and hot winds. Just imagine.
Sounds awful.
So for this journey, the soul is given what's called a jatana deha.
Jatana deha. What does that mean?
It translates roughly to a body of torment, or a subtle energetic body specifically designed to experience suffering.
Right.
And here's a really practical, vital insight for the living, something mentioned quite clearly. The rice balls, or Sâroddhâra offerings, these are the ancestral rites, where food and other things are offered to the deceased from offspring. These are considered essential for forming this new, subtle body. It happens day by day for the first 10 days after death.
Interesting. So the living directly help form this torment body.
Help form the vehicle for the journey, yes. And along this path, the soul encounters 16 cities, each with its own specific miseries, places like Saumya, Soripura, Krurapura, and Bahupiti. But perhaps the most vivid and disturbing description of suffering along this path is the terribly horrible Vaitaranti River.
The Vaitaranti River. What's that like?
Well, it's portrayed as a flow of pus and blood.
Oh, lovely.
Obstructed with hairy moss and filled with huge crocodiles, all apparently seething like butter in the frying pan. And the text explicitly states this river was created only that the sinful should fall into it.
So it's like the ultimate barrier for the unrighteous.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow, that Way of Yama sounds like the ultimate bad road trip. It really, really hammers home the concept of immediate consequences, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
So after navigating that horrific journey, the soul finally arrives at Yama's court for judgment. Yama himself, the king of justice, as he depicted.
Majestic, but terrifying. Huge of body, rod in hand, seated on a buffalo.
On a buffalo.
On a buffalo, yes. With 32 arms, eyes like wells, and a mouth gaping with formidable fangs. Quite the figure.
Definitely intimidating.
And by his side is Chitragupta, the celestial record keeper.
Record keeper, okay.
And he receives reports from the Suravanshas.
The Suravanshas, who are they?
They're fascinating figures. Think of them as like spiritual intelligence agents.
Mm.
The text says they know accurately all that is done by women and report every single open and secret deed of men to Chitragupta.
Every secret deed. Wow. So, yeah, no secret is safe, apparently.
Exactly. Nothing gets missed. And from there, based on that record, the sinful are cast into one of the 21 dreadful hells mentioned specifically in this Purana, though it said these are chosen from a, well, staggering 8.4 million possibilities described in the broader Hindu cosmology.
8.4 million. Okay, that's a lot of options.
It is. And the Purana doesn't hold back on the vivid examples of torment in those 21.
Mm-hmm.
Souls are hung head downwards on a huge silk cotton tree, cut with saws like firewood, squeezed like sugarcane, plunged into heated butter or heated oil, and pecked by flesh-eating crows and vultures. It's quite graphic.
Definitely graphic.
But what's truly insightful here, and you touched on this earlier, it's a profound distinction from many Western views of, say, eternal damnation.
Right.
Suffering in these Hindu hells is explicitly not eternal.
Right, that's the key.
The text emphasizes their reformatory and educative nature.
Mm-hmm.
It says these experiences leave a permanent educative effect on the conscience. The goal is fostering a finer development of conscience for future lives. It's really a purification process, however harsh, not a final condemnation.
That's such a powerful distinction. And it connects directly, I guess, to our next section, this whole idea of the karmic wheel. So if these hells are reformatory, how exactly do specific sins play out, like in future lives?
Yeah, good question.
What are some of the most striking examples the Purana gives?
Well, the Purana details how specific sins don't just lead to specific hells. They can later manifest as actual signs of sins in subsequent human births. It's quite
the sins, like physical marks.
Sometimes physical, sometimes dispositional. For instance, a murderer of a Brahmin, and just to clarify, we're talking about a member of the priestly or scholarly caste highly revered in traditional Hindu society.
Got it.
That person becomes consumptive, like with tuberculosis, in their next life. Someone who kills a cow becomes humpbacked and imbecile. If you steal food, you might be reborn as a rat.
A rat, wow.
And a skeeler of water could become a Shataka bird.
A Shataka bird. What's that?
It's a bird from mythology, fabled to live only on raindrops, so it's perpetually thirsty.
Ah, very symbolic.
Extremely.
Yeah.
It's a very direct and, vivid illustration of karma, literally shaping your next incarnation, right down to your physical form or condition.
And even for those who are returning from hell, the text says rebirth in the human womb is still described as a misery.
Yes, even that transition isn't easy. The fetus is portrayed as being bitten constantly by hungry worms and burnt by the fire of the belly. Pretty grim.
Definitely.
It's even said to remember the karma generated in hundreds of previous births, and because of this memory, it's sobbing in misery within the womb.
Remembering past lives.
Wow. The text really underscores the precarious nature of human life, doesn't it? Birth and death are the lot of all embodied beings, thus turns the wheel in the four kingdoms of beings.
It's a cycle.
A constant cycle.
Yeah.
But despite these miseries, human birth is presented as this incredible, rare opportunity.
Right, not just another turn of the wheel.
Exactly. It's obtained through the accumulation of merit. After potentially millions of myriads of thousands of births, it's seen as a crucial step to liberation. And the Purana poses this really direct challenge to the listener, to you. Who in this world is more sinful than he, who gets this precious human birth and doesn't use it for spiritual benefit?
That's a heavy question. It really puts the responsibility on the individual. So, okay, after all that incredibly vivid description of punishment and karmic consequences, the Purana does shift gears, right, towards the positive side.
It does.
It outlines how one can actually influence this journey, improve their soul's prospects. What are some of the key actions or rituals mentioned?
Well, one of the paramount insights the Purana offers, reflecting the social context of its time, is the importance of having a son. He's actually named Putra precisely because he saves his father from the hell called Put.
Put? Is that a specific hell?
Yes, it's a particular hell associated with being childless, and the son's rituals are seen as rescuing the father from it. It really highlights the societal importance placed on lineage back then.
I see.
And the Sâroddhâra ceremonies, those ancestral rites we touched on earlier, the rice balls, water, prayers, they're outlined as absolutely crucial for the departed soul's well-being and progression.
So they really help the soul move on.
That's the core belief, yes. There's even a story narrated about a king Babhruvahana and a departed soul named Sudeva. Now, Sudeva had performed good deeds in life, but he was stuck in the departed condition like a ghost or spirit because he had no offspring to perform the necessary shraddhas.
So his good deeds were enough on their own.
In this narrative, no. Particularly the 16 monthly rites were missing, which were considered essential for the soul to move beyond that state. It really underscores how individual virtue sometimes needs the support of communal and familial duties, according to this text. And the Purana goes into, well, quite remarkable detail about the power of specific gifts and rituals.
Like what kind of gifts?
For the dying, it lists 8 great gifts. These are sesamum, iron, gold, cotton, salt, 7 specific types of grains, land, and a cow.
Okay, quite a list. Do they explain why these specific things?
Yes, and what's truly insightful is how it codifies these practical actions, even seemingly small ones, into a system offering concrete spiritual benefits. For example, giving iron is believed to propitiate Yama's weapons, making the journey less harsh. Gold pleases celestial beings. Donating land can supposedly absolve even serious sins.
So it's very specific cause and effect.
Very specific. And there's also an elaborate Vaitaran's cow ritual described.
For the Vaitaranti River we talked about earlier.
Exactly. If this ritual is performed correctly, the text says, that river does not appear in the Great Way after the gift of a cow. It effectively removes that obstacle.
That's quite a powerful ritual then.
Indeed. And other things too. Dying near a holy basil tree, the tulsi plant, and a Sâroddhâra stone.
What's a Sâroddhâra stone?
It's a special type of fossilized ammonite found in specific riverbeds, particularly the Gandaki River in Nepal. It's revered as a natural manifestation of Vishnu himself.
Okay.
So, dying near those, or simply drinking water from the Ganges River at the time of death. These are also mentioned as powerful actions. Powerful enough, it says, to potentially grant liberation regardless of past sins.
Regardless. Wow.
It suggests a path of grace, perhaps. Then there's the dedication of a bull, right?
Dedication of a bull.
Yes, another powerful ceremony. This one is said to help ancestors out for 21 generations from hells like Rorava. It has this kind of collective karmic uplift effect.
Helping ancestors too, not just the individual.
Right. And finally, there's the sapinta rite. This is really important. It involves symbolically mixing the deceased's offerings, usually the rice balls, with those of the ancestors who came before. This is considered essential for the soul to finally leave the preta condition, that ghost or unliberated spirit state, and formally join the Pichas, the forefathers or ancestors who've attained a higher plane.
So it's like graduating to the next level.
In a sense, yes. And the Purana even gets into the specifics of differing pollution periods, times of ritual impurity for the family, based on caste and relation to the deceased, all tied into these rites. It shows a very intricate social and ritualistic structure.
So it's clear the Purana lays out this detailed system of consequences, but it also offers these very specific avenues for remedy and advancement through ritual and gifts. And for those who did live virtuously, where does their journey lead?
Well, for them, the path leads to the city of the King of Justice, which is Yama's domain. But for the righteous, it's described very differently.
How so?
It's depicted as a place of true opulence, all built of diamonds, splendid like lightning flame in the sun. A place with no extreme heat and no extreme cold, no sorrows and no old age.
Sounds pretty good, like a perfect spiritual paradise.
It does. The text specifies 3 main gateways for the meritorious to enter: Eastern, Northern, and Western.
And are there specific actions that lead to specific gates?
Yes, absolutely. The Purana links specific virtuous actions directly to these gateways. For instance, things like giving rest houses to travelers, honoring guests, practicing celibacy, or being deeply devoted to one's parents. These are all explicitly stated as actions that grant entry through one of these 3 gateways into this celestial city.
Okay, so it's a very clear vision. Do good deeds, get a direct reward in this opulent afterlife abode.
Exactly. A direct reward for righteousness.
Yeah.
But, and this is a really significant pivot in the Purana, while it outlines all these detailed rites and charitable acts and rewards, it ultimately points towards what it considers the ultimate path.
Which is?
Self-knowledge.
Jnana.
Knowledge itself. Yes. It posits the human body as a kind of microcosm. It calls it the Paramarthika body.
Paramarthika, what does that imply?
It means something like the ultimate reality or supreme truth body. The idea is that it contains all the worlds, mountains, continents, oceans, suns, and planets within itself, specifically within its 6 chakras.
The energy centers.
Exactly. These energy centers, often described in yogic traditions, points of psychic energy in the subtle body, are seen as holding the entire cosmos within the individual.
That's a profound idea.
It is. And the law for liberation that the Purana lays out states that the individual soul, the Atman, is fundamentally a part of the supreme Brahman.
Okay, and just to be clear, this Brahman is different from the Brahman caste we mentioned earlier, right?
Absolutely different. Brahman here refers to the ultimate, supreme, unchanging reality in Hindu philosophy, the source of all existence. Described here as partless, all-knowing, all-doing, Lord of all, stainless, and secondless. The one without a second.
So the individual soul is part of that.
Essentially, yes. Not just part of, but identical to it in its true nature. And crucially, the text then emphasizes that true liberation, moksha, comes from realizing this knowledge, this identity, alone. Not merely from studying scriptures, however sacred, not just from performing elaborate rituals, however powerful, not even from practicing severe austerity.
Only from knowledge.
From direct experiential knowledge, yes. It famously uses this analogy. The fool, not knowing that the truth is seated in himself, is bewildered by the shastras, the scriptures. A foolish goatherd, with the young goat under his arm, peers into the well.
That's a great image. Explain that a bit.
Well, imagine a goatherd carrying his lost kid goat under his arm, but he's so bewildered or focused externally that he's peering down a well, searching for it.
Right, looking everywhere except where it actually is.
Precisely. The Purana suggests we often do the same with truth. We search frantically in external scriptures, rituals, or philosophies, completely missing the fact that the ultimate truth, our liberation, the goat, is already within us, inseparable from our own consciousness. It's a profound call to look inward first and foremost.
That's incredibly powerful. So what does this all mean for us, listening to this? The Purana really pushes us to look beyond the surface, doesn't it? Beyond just the rituals and the inherited beliefs. It highlights the futility of purely external actions if there's no internal understanding. It even asks rhetorically, what great serpent is killed by beating the anthill alone?
Meaning you can attack the symptoms, the external manifestations.
Right, beat the anthill.
But if you don't address the core issue, the serpent hidden inside, it's ultimately useless.
Exactly. And it reiterates quite forcefully that knowledge only is the cause of emancipation, of liberation, and that the word from the teacher, meaning guidance from an enlightened guru, gives liberation, not simply reading tens of millions of texts.
The emphasis is on guided internal realization.
And this idea of non-attachment, differentiating mine from not mine. That sounds incredibly profound, too.
It is, and it's subtle. It's not necessarily about physically abandoning possessions or relationships. It's more about releasing our mental and emotional identification with them. Understanding that clinging to things, to status, even to our own ego, thinking, this is mine, creates spiritual bondage.
Chains, yeah.
Whereas realizing the transient nature of things and understanding our true self as separate from these attachments, thinking, not mine, that fosters true freedom.
Letting go internally.
Precisely. And interestingly, for those seeking maybe a more geographically focused path to aid this realization, the Purana does list 7 specific holy cities.
Oh, which ones?
Ayodhya, Mathura, Gaya, Kashi, which is Varanasi, Kanji, Avantika, Ujjain, and Dwarka. It calls these cities givers of liberation, suggesting pilgrimage or connection to these sacred places can also be supportive. So, we've journeyed through this really expansive narrative of the Garuda Purâṇa, from the frankly terrifying passage of the sinful soul and the intricate mechanics of karmic rebirth, through all those specific rites and gifts that can apparently influence one's destiny, and then finally arriving at this ultimate path of enlightenment purely through self-knowledge.
It's quite a ride.
It really is. It paints this incredibly comprehensive, remarkably detailed picture of the soul's journey through death, judgment, various states of being, but always with this clear underlying message about consequences, yes, but also about opportunities for liberation.
Yeah, this deep dive into the Garuda Purana, it really shows us that, regardless of your specific belief system, this ancient pursuit of self-knowledge and compassion, it just has this enduring power, doesn't it? It seems to transcend cultures and eras.
I think so, too.
It kind of reminds us that every action, maybe even every thought, is part of some larger story, and that ultimately the key to unlocking true freedom, well, it might just be found within ourselves, if only we actually take the time to look like that goatherd needed to do.
Well put.
So the question for you listening is, What stands out to you from this ancient wisdom? How does this idea of an educative afterlife, or maybe the transformative power of self-knowledge, how does that resonate in your own deep dive into understanding the world? Something to think about.